Okay, good morning, good afternoon, and good evening for all those who are joining from the Americas, Europe, and the Asian continent. Thank you all for joining this important session, and we're going to be discussing a very interesting and an important topic. The topic is how Khalistan terrorists use Western democracies to unleash and promote extremism and violence. This is the topic we're going to be discussing, and we are going to be discussing it based on a recent report which was published in the last week of April 2023. It's called as the Bloom Review Report, published by Mr. Colin Bloom, who's an independent, analyst on religious freedom and issues like that. It's a very interesting report, and it's particularly focusing on the United Kingdom. But I believe the crux of what the Bloom report says applies to all democracies around the world, wherever the Khalistani elements are spread at this point in time. So let me first introduce the speakers of the day. The first one I'll be introducing is Sri Samir Kaushal. You can start your video, Samir, if it's okay with you, so that people.
Yeah, that's fine.
So, Samir Kaushal is a long-standing journalist based in Canada. He's currently the news director at radio station AM 600 in Surrey, Canada. He's also the host of a popular chat show on Sher Punjab Radio, which is again a Canadian radio channel based in Canada. And he has a personal experience with Khalistani terrorists. So, and I believe he's the apt person to talk on the subject of the day. So I heartily welcome him to this event. Thank you, Samir, for joining. I know it's very early morning for you. It's at 7 a.m. in the morning, but you do your shows at 7 a.m. So I believe it's not much of a difficulty for you. So we love your show. So I'm looking forward that my participants also hear you speak today. The other speaker of the day is Mr. Anilesh Mahajan. Anilesh Mahajan is yet to join, but yet I'll just introduce him and I'll welcome him when he joins. He is currently the deputy editor of the India Today magazine based in India, published in India, and he's a very senior journalist. He comes from Punjab and is well versed with Khalistan movement and the Sikh politics, the entire Sikh politics. He has previously worked with several news organizations, including the Times of India. And he's actually also well versed with Sikh politics globally. So because Sikh politics is not just confined to India today, it's a global phenomenon. So we need to understand that a little more, and he has a good understanding of the subject. That's why we have invited him today. So as I said earlier, this session is based on this extensive report on extremism and violence in the United Kingdom by Colin Bloom, an independent faith engagement advisor. Basically, Colin was supposed to join this event today, but unfortunately for us and fortunately for him, it's the coronation day of King Charles in England, in UK today. So he actually excused us because of that. He wanted to participate in the events there. But he has promised that he will come to us and speak about this topic maybe in the coming week. If he agrees to it, then we'll host another exclusive event where Colin will be speaking with our audience. So this 160-page report that he has brought out is about the means and ways by which the terrorist groups that demand a separate Khalistan have been making use of the freedom that's provided in democratic nations globally to fan their extremism and to unleash violence on innocents who do not agree with, basically people who don't agree with their views. They target these people. I'm just going to introduce the subject a little bit before I ask Samir to speak. But of course, despite this, we hold that the vast majority of our Sikh brethren do not subscribe to the Khalistani worldview and are very deeply patriotic Indians. And all the people of Indian origin too are like that. The Sikh community abroad, a majority of them are like that, in whichever nation they have gone and settled. And they are flourishing in those places. They are hardworking people. They are very enterprising, and they are very loyal and patriotic. They gel with the existing communities, whichever country, nation, wherever they have gone and settled down. And also their humanitarian work, wherever they are, is globally known, and particularly during global crises like the recent COVID pandemic, it's very highly laudable. Wherever they have settled the gurudwaras. They've opened up their gurudwaras. They've opened up the langar so that people don't suffer. So such great seva work they're doing, and none of them are doing it for any personal glory. They are truly doing it for humanitarian purposes. We accept and acknowledge that upfront on this matter. And let me tell you, Law and Society Alliance, which is a Delhi headquartered think tank, is a non-partisan organization. So we want to look at issues much more critically, and also that we take a very nationalist view. When I say nationalist, you should not take it politically. What I meant is that we take a very India first position on any global issue. So as I was talking about the Khalistan movement, what we see today is that the movement is festering in the Americas and Europe, fanned by a microscopic minority of extremists and terrorists, and they are obviously aided and funded by Pakistan. It's a very clear thing. We have several Western think tanks and individuals who have been doing research on Khalistan for a very long time, actually calling the Khalistan idea itself as a daydreaming project of Pakistan. In fact, Samir would be very familiar. Terry Milowski is an independent Canadian journalist. He has been following the Khalistan terrorism and the Khalistan movement all through his journalistic career. He's a veteran. He's a retired journalist now. He's retired from journalism now. Quite aged at this point in time. But in fact, he has been tracking the Khalistan movement and its violence since the Air India Kanishka aircraft bombing that left several hundreds dead over the Atlantic Ocean in the 80s. He has published a report in 2020 for the Canada-based Macdonald-Laurier Institute on the topic Khalistan, a project of Pakistan. He is very clear about it, and he has given instances and examples of how the Khalistan idea is a Pakistani what do you call it? Is it's an idea that has been injected by Pakistan. In the minds of people, or rather, they are fanning that idea among the minds of people. Anilesh Mahajan has joined. I've introduced him previously. Welcome, Anilesh Mahajan. I'm just introducing the topic so that our participants are clear about what we are talking about. So I just mentioned about Terry Milowski, who's also known to you. His work in this report of Terry Milowski came out in 2020. But again, in 2021, Dr. Aparna Pandey of the Hudson Institute, which is in Washington, D.C. based American think tank, dealt with the subject of Pakistan's destabilization playbook called as the Khalistan separatist activism, and how they have been using the American democratic freedoms and that exists in America to fan this extremism and violence. So these are a couple of reports. And now this Bloomberg review has been published in UK on the same subject. And it's brought out that there are around 250 gurudwaras in UK, and around 3,006 use the gurudwara facilities for the prayer and for the religious activity on a daily basis. Though this doesn't actually capture the actual numbers of population of Sikhs in the nation, it kind of records that gurudwara, have been present for a very long time. I think the first gurudwara was started in 1908, and it still functions in the UK. So that's the kind of, it's more than 100 years of Sikh settlements in the UK, and a gurudwara and Sikh community flourishing in UK since then. The report has also, of Bloom review, has also pointed out that there is now a tussle going on between the Khalistani elements and the larger Sikh community. Basically, the fight is who is going to control the gurudwaras. I said 250 gurudwaras exist today in UK. And it is also the fight as to who will be representing, who are the actual representatives of the Sikh community, both within UK and outside UK. That's also one of the tussle that is going on there. I mean, these are issues which are cropping up because there are democracies which allow the freedom for religious communities to flourish. So there is this report of Bloom, Colin Bloom also noted that there is a very clear division between those who follow and propagate this extremist fringe ideology within the pro-Khalistan movement and those who do not subscribe to this worldview. So this kind of a tussle is also going on. That's what the report brings out. So Bloom also notes that the Khalistani elements in the UK Sikh community are a very microscopic minority, but they terrorize the Sikhs to fall in line with their extremism and their violent ideas, and also make these people who oppose them, this larger community which opposes them, to face extreme consequences. Suppose say you give out an idea that's not akin to the worldview of these Khalistani terrorists. They come and target you, even personally. Also, even your family members, your children are also targeted so that you fall in line. This is the kind of activities that this report has brought out. So we have witnessed these kind of attacks in the recent months. Since at least in January, there are a lot of things that have come under media glare. We have all heard about this attack on the Indian flag in the Indian High Commission in Britain, in UK, London, where they desecrated the flag. So there have been similar attacks on Indians who have been opposing this Khalistani idea in Australia, in Canada, and in the US. So these are some of the incidents. I'm not going to list out the incidents because people who are following this topic, they already know about it. And I'll be taking too long a time.
Samir was also attacked.
Samir was also attacked. I mentioned it when I introduced them. So Samir was also under attack for similar, putting pressure on him. They were trying to putting pressure on him. So he is the best person to talk about this subject. That's why we invited him today. So even some temples, Hindu temples in all these nations have come under attack. They have been desecrated. There have been attacks on Indians, individuals and also groups, when they celebrated India's Independence Day or a Republic Day or any such event that has a very emotional connect for Indians. The concern that has been expressed in the Bloom review is that these extremist Khalistani terrorists, though in a minority, are controlling gurudwaras and are using the funds donated to these gurudwaras in these democratic nations by the Sikh community to further their Khalistani agenda and also to do anti-India campaign and build a narrative against India in these nations. And they also want to break India. They also propagate this idea of breaking India and harming Indians and their interests globally. So if, as I mentioned, if any Sikh do not conform to this Khalistan idea, they are intimidated using all subversive methods considered to be the most alien of ideas as far as the basic tenets of Sikhism is concerned. This faith does not condone these kind of subversive activities that these Khalistani terrorists indulge in. So they also try to hijack. The Khalistani elements are also trying to hijack the Sikh faith itself, as we have seen in the recent times, including what has happened in Punjab, where a fringe element tried to project himself as a big religious leader. Of course, now he's behind bars, but Amritpal did try to emerge as though he's the biggest religious leader of the Sikh community. So also that this Bloom review, has shown evidence of repeated cases of individuals being intimidated and threatened by aggressive Khalistani terrorists, either directly or indirectly through the family members which I mentioned. These Khalistani people are also very active on social media. They upload videos and other materials, of course, using the freedom and free speech that exists in these democratic nations, to post anti-India, anti-Hindu community, anti-other Indian community videos and posts, and also glorifying violence, instigating people to extremist behavior, to indulge in violence and hatred for India, Indians, and even other Sikh community who do not agree with their minority extremist ideology. Essentially, the Khalistani terrorists are using democratic freedoms provided by these nations to fuel its divisive and violent ideas, apart from causing harm to Indians and including the Sikh community. That's the entire crux of this Bloom review report. So I will now call upon the speakers, Samir first and Anilesh next, to speak on the topic. I will limit myself here. I will not talk further. Being the host, I should be gracious enough to give time to my two guests to speak. But before I call Samir, there are a couple of administrative announcements. We are recording this program, so I would request all the participants to keep your mics on switch off mode so that there is no disturbance in the recording. And it's also a mark of respect for the speakers That is one thing. The second is, if you have any Wi-Fi bandwidth issues at your place, switch on off your videos, because at least the audio is clearer. The idea is that the message that the two speakers are going to give us today reaches the audience, and you take home something very important from this session. So that's the idea behind it. So my humble request is, keep your videos off if you have any bandwidth issues, and just listen to the speakers. That's my request. If you have any questions to ask at the end of the two speakers making their presentations, please post it in the chat box. I will take it up and post it to the two speakers. Also mention the speaker's name to whom you are addressing the question, so that it becomes easier to post it to them. So with these three administrative announcements, I request Samir, who is joining us very early in the morning from Canada, to take the stage and speak on the subject. Thank you so much. Before I do that, let me just show you the Bloom review report. This is the report that Colin Bloom has put out. This is just for you to know. Are you able to see it, Anilesh? Can you confirm?
No, I can't see.
Okay, 1 second. 1 second. Just hold on. I'll just share that. Yeah. Are you able to see it now? This is the Colin Bloom report. Anybody interested in, you can go and download it, search for it and download it, and you can read it. So with this,
or if somebody wants it, they can WhatsApp it to us. I can also provide that.
I also have a copy. If anybody wants it, I can WhatsApp it. I'll put my email ID and my WhatsApp phone number in the chat box. You can just message me. I'll send it across to you. With these words, I call Samir to speak. Samir, the time is yours.
Thank you so much, Mr. Bipendra, and all the participants over here. It was, as you said, it's very comprehensive report. It's 21,000 respondents. They have been interviewed in this review, and this report is of 159 pages. And yesterday, I got a chance to interview Mr. Colin Bloom in my show, along with Anilesh as well. And he discussed so many, surprising things. The first thing he said, we all know, we all came from, India. I mean, my background is from India, from Punjab as well. And Mr. Colin Bloom, he said that this review started in 2019 when Mr. Boris Johnson, the then Prime Minister of United Kingdom, he gave this idea to reset the country's faith, religion, community program to reset. So, as you mentioned, that Mr. Colin Bloom is a faith advisor in the UK government, and this report is now public on the UK government's website. And it is a very comprehensive report. And what he told me, he said he came to, interview three types of people. One person who are true believer in any of the religion, or they are not believing in any religion, so they are true believer in that. They are generous, they are kind, they are decent, they are peaceful, and the same with the non-believers. So, and he said that there is the third, community, or the third, group. They say they have a faith, they believe in a religion, but he said they use their religion as a vehicle. So that is those are the issues he raised in this report. And he categorically, mentioned in this that there are pro-Khalistani agendas. Those the propagandists, those who are running this agenda in United Kingdom, and similarly, it is running all over Western countries, especially in Canada as well. And if you look into the Europe, Germany or England, and similarly in Australia as well. So he said the majority of the Sikhs, they are very peaceful, they are very progressive, and they have achieved so many things. But it is just a handful of activists or propagandists. They are extremely vocal. They are aggressive, and they target those who are not supporting their ideology. And that's what we have, experienced even in Canada as well. That's what I asked Mr. Colin as well. So Same thing happened with me. I think last month we had a scheduled event of Indian High Commissioner. That was the first visit of this new High Commissioner on the west coast of Canada in Vancouver. He was supposed to meet so many Indian diaspora community members over here in Surrey, where a bunch of Khalistani, pro-Khalistani activists, they blocked the event and they put their trucks at the front gate, and they were shouting their slogans and raising, abusive language over there. So as a media person, when I went there to cover the event, they blocked the way. They were not letting anybody go in. And surprisingly, the police, the Royal Canadian Mounted Police, the RCMP, they were present there. I requested them that if I can go in. The officer said, no, you cannot go in. You have to talk to the protesters. Then when I reached to one of the protesters, I said, I have this invite. I want to go in. If you can let me go in. He said, no, if you are going in, that means you are anti-Sikh. You are anti-Sikh. I said, I'm not anti-Sikh. I am here. I came from Punjab and I have, half of my family is Sikh. So how can this be possible? By that time, the person who was addressing that mob, he shouted, he was yelling, and he instigated the mob over there. That's what their modus operandi is. That's how they brainwash the mob mentality. And suddenly, approximately more than 100 guys, they just swirling around me. They heckled me. They shouted abusive language on me. Then the RCMP guys, they came. They put me out from that mob, and they said, you have to leave for your own security. So this is what is happening in Western countries, even in Europe, because the police agencies, the government, they are not ready to deal with this kind of mentality, because we have a freedom over here. This is a beautiful country, and definitely demanding something is not a sin. You can demand anything, but that has to be in a dignified manner. That has to be in a peaceful manner. But when the things go aggressive, when the things go violent, then the government definitely they're going to think something in a broader prospect. And right now, I think UK government they took a first step that they initiate this review. And I think after 4 years, after interviewing 21,000 respondents interview, they have choke out this plan, this very detailed report, which is clearly showing that in UK especially, and even in Canada, we cannot ignore this fact, there are certain religious places, especially when we're talking about the pro-Khalistani extremism, some gurudwaras as well. They have been, controlled by these activists, these pro-Khalistani, elements, and they are using the religion as a tool to achieve their target or to please, their godfathers. And this is very, very sad. I mean, they are brainwashing the youth. They are trying to, create a narrative among the diaspora that the Indian state is not doing anything for Sikhs. But majority of Sikhs, even I spoke to so many other media outlets that I haven't seen any prominent Sikh personality in their protests, in their events, on their stages. It's just a handful of the groups. Even I interviewed a few years back. I interviewed Mr. Gurpatwant Singh Pannu. He's a legal advisor or a chief legal advisor of World Sikh the WSO I think the SFJ, Sikhs for Justice. I interviewed him and I asked him, you are talking about the 1864 Punjab. Why you're not talking about the Punjab, which is, the part which was left in Pakistan? I said, no, we're gonna focus on the Punjab, which is, in India. So same mentioned in this report as well, because Mr. Colin, he interviewed some of the people over there, or he mentioned in his review that the physical border, of which are largely, shared with specific part of Punjab state in India. And interestingly, he said that this territorial claim does not include the part of Punjab which is located in Pakistan. So it raises so many questions. Who is running this ideology? Is it really the Sikh community? No. The Sikhs over there, they are very progressive. They are living in a very peaceful manner. We cannot question their patriotism or their nationality in India. They are part of India. And we have so many soldiers of from the Sikh community. And I think Canada should also adopt this kind of initiative now, and they should go with this kind of, I think, review. And I think the governments in Western countries or in European countries, I think they're going to take a very, very strong stand in this manner now.
Thank you. Thank you, Samir. Thank you for that very lucid and crisp presentation on the Bloom report itself. I now request Anilesh to present his views as a discussant.
Hello, Bipin sir. Thanks for inviting me. Thanks, Samir, for wonderful insight you gave us. Bipin sir, my concern about the Western democracies, and especially the liberal democracies, is that in terms of freedom of speech, they are giving too much of leverage, to many of these outfits. I'm really happy that Colin Bloom, wrote an extensive report. I read it, and yesterday, Samir arranged a very good show on his radio channel, which I also was part of, where we discussed many of these elements. Although I don't agree with all the findings of Colin Bloom, but I really appreciate his effort that he spent his time to understand the intricacies and understand the basic mindset of various ethnicities and religion as well as cultures. So, and he has come up with very much nuances which many of Punjabis are facing vis-a-vis Khalistanis. We also have to understand how these elements capture the political space especially in country like Canada and even in UK, where gurdwaras eventually have become a place where communities interact and and develop electoral basis for many politicians. Now many Sikh faces with Khalistani sympathizing uh, uh, lectures and sympathizing sentiments have reached the UK as well as Canadian parliaments. And on every given occasion, they try to propagate, by pseudo cases of human rights or some other things. They rake up these issues in the parliament. We have to understand as Khalistan directly impacts India. So we have to understand how these institutions are being captured and misused by these handful of people, and they force people to toe their lines. And second is the threat which is there for the Western, democracies, although they are liberal. But we see that, a law-abiding citizen like Samir was attacked, and he was not allowed to do his job. Similarly, we are increasingly seeing, people who are being, labeled as agencies de bande, where if I translate it into English, it becomes, spies of security agencies. And those guys not only get this label, but also they are being ostracized in societies, business. These guys force them to not to get into certain businesses, or their ecosystem is being damaged. Samir must be going through many of such examples, and I have also seen people in US, UK, Canada, Australia. Now it's a new heaven for these Khalistanis. People are facing this issue. uh, then if we look at the government side, since they are political force, So they also don't want to take a direct confrontation with many of these elements. And in the garb of freedom of speech and freedom of expression, they allow these protests. And if we look around, many of these Khalistani elements now developed, their nexus with the gangsters who may or may not be operating in the North American or the European spheres, but they are doing crimes in Indian sphere, Indian geographies. We have recently, Samir also did a big story on one of the dreaded gangsters in India is now a Canadian, he's in Canada and he's taking shelter there, and Canadian government is not being able to take any action against him. Samir, I'm forgetting the name. I think
It's a
if
Stinder,
I'm not wrong, it
it's
is
a Stinder
Goldie
Brad, it's a Stinder Brad,
Goldie Brad. Goldie Brad. He's one of the
the one who is
dreaded
a
gangsters.
mastermind of in the killing of Sidhu Moosewala.
Sidhu Moosewala, and he's taking shelter in Canada. And Canadian authorities need to understand that this guy is getting shelter because of this network of Khalistanis. And he is openly, proclaiming that, he is a pro-Khalistani guy, and, Indian government was after him because of his belief. And if we see his pictures, he is a cutsard, he has shaven beard. He's not a religious guy. He doesn't believe in the tenets of Sikhism. He's a criminal by all virtues, but still, Khalistanis are using him. And if we go to the eastern coast, on Toronto side, many of these gurdwaras are, harbor grounds for people who are into extortions. People who are doing extortion with the singers and filmmakers in India. They are doing, things sitting in Toronto or, Montreal, on those type of places. I can name some of them, and the game there is that the Canadian law doesn't allow people to question finances of these institutions. Gurdwaras are free to collect money and spend wherever they want to spend. There is no audit system which is in place for non-profit organizations. Canada being a liberal, they want to believe in their citizens by all means. But when there is a suspicion that this money is being pushed into the terror network or drug network or gang network or international criminal network, then they should question it. And Indian diplomats are putting pressure on the Canadians as well as the UK counterparts that they need to question them. That people are giving money because of their religious belief, and believe that this money is being utilized for the human good, charity work, giving some assistance to people who are not that well off, providing food. This is basic tenets of Sikhism, no? But this money is going into a different direction, and which is anti-Sikh tenets, anti-Sikh philosophy, anti-Sikh ideology. But no question is being asked. So, yes, they have political domination. Yes, they have a clout. Yes, they have uh, a nuisance value as well. They undermine people. For example, Vipin sir, when you asked me to look for some faces uh, in Canada or UK to be part of the panelist, I spoke to many politicians. Although strategically and ideologically they are against Khalistan or anti-India activities, but they were not willing to come out. And why they were not willing to come out was, and they cited this, that they will land up at our own places, they will create nuisance, and we don't want to get into it. Most of the peace-loving and well-meaning Indian diaspora people like Samir, they want to do their job, they want to be with their family, they want to have good time with their family, they don't want to get into it. And we have to respect their choices. But the thing is that they are misusing it, they are exploiting it, and they are using it to create an anti-India narrative, and which is false, which doesn't have legs, and which doesn't have any facts to support. For example, this Amritpal guy, which you were also referring to. He was backed by ISI network. One of them, we are getting reports that Paramjit Singh Panjwar is killed in Lahore. We don't know the details as yet, but he was one of those guys who was helping him. Second guy was Paramjit Singh Pamma. He's living in London, heart of London, and his closest of associate is a parliamentarian, British parliamentarian, who on every given occasion goes to the British Parliament, try to build a narrative that Indian government is against Sikhs, they are doing atrocities, they are putting Sikhs randomly into jails. We all are living in this world, and we can see that nothing of this sort is happening. But if you see that gentleman's narrative, that narrative is built on false, deliberate, and a sinful choices of, not even facts, choices of the elements which he wants to use. That needs to be called out. And Colin Bloom, with this report, really made this effort to call it, call spade a spade. Although we may not be, in agreement of, the most of his findings, but his basic premise about Khalistanis is correct. Their characteristics, which he pointed out, is correct. The way they use our religious sentiment is correct. But maybe for future, or maybe for other scholars to study. See, Colin Bloom has done this research with his own perspective of a white British scholar. It is okay from his perspective, but if it has to be taken to the next level, it has to be done in a more comprehensive way, more understanding the difference between the Indic thought process, as well as vis-a-vis the Abrahamic thought process, and to understand that Indic religions and Indic thought process is not a political thought process. It's a more of a cultural and sociological thought process, where nation doesn't mean the political boundaries or political power, where nation means individuals, characters, and society. So that
Essentially,
understanding is
civilization.
still lacking in this civilization, yes. And that understanding, I believe, was lacking in this report. But he did it with the perspective of a British scholar, which is okay. We can take reports with a pinch of salt. And I'm really, glad that that this report has come. Terry's report was also, was also on a similar lines, where he called out people. And we need to understand that, these Khalistanis are also not a homogeneous society. They are also heterogeneous. Heterogeneous not only vis-a-vis ideology, but also of, there are different set of people who are running different organizations, and they have different ethos. Like the guy Pannu, whom Samir, was mentioning, he runs a nexus of people who wants political asylums.
But Unlesh, I just want to join on one point, because as you said that Colin Bloom, he maybe, according to your opinion, that his review is based on the as a British scholar, and he made it on some different grounds. I think when I questioned him yesterday, and I asked the same question, he said, the basic fundamental of this report is based on the British values. So we have to see that he made that report in Britain, in UK, and Wales, and the core foundation is the British values, which is freedom, which is democracy, which is justice, which is tolerance, which is respect. So we have to keep these 5 points in mind.
Absolutely.
Yeah. So carry on, please.
Absolutely. Samir, when
that is why we are discussing this topic today. How the Khalistani terrorists use the freedoms and the values of democracy.
They are not just using the religion as a tool, but they are using the British values or Canadian values or Western values
democratic
as
values.
a tool as
a
a tool
for
to narrate their agenda.
correct.
Absolutely, absolutely. I fully qualify your points. And when I said this, I also mentioned that we need to understand this, that he is a British white scholar and he is coming from a different perspective. But it is also our job as somebody who are thinking about our society to give a deeper perspective that okay, yes, he's correct. But things have to be seen in a different perspective. We all can say that coffee as well as tea is hot, but properties of coffee is different and tea is different. So we are just trying to place things that okay, coffee has a different history, different purpose, different objective. So is Indian religions, Indic religions, Indian philosophies vis-a-vis the Abrahamic societies. So these have to be judged in their own context rather than just putting them together in a jar. So this was my brief point on his report. He is very correct. If somebody is trying to understand any problem or any complexity in their society, it is a very easy way to apply their mind with a set principles in mind. But when you get deeper into research, deeper into studying any concept, then you have to understand the properties that okay, this is mercury, although it is also a metal, but it is in a liquid form, so it has a different context altogether. Then we can take the journey forward. And Bipin sir, these are my brief points. That yes, they are using democracy and they have gone deeper into the system. They are part of the British as well as Canadian parliaments. They're using the parliaments to set the agendas, to pass resolutions which are factually sometimes incorrect. Secondly, they have captured many of our religious institutions. They have captured many of the gurdwaras. Thirdly, they are also using a global criminal network. Then they are also propagating elements like Amritpal and others. I'm not saying that Amritpal was the only one. There are others also who are regularly getting funding. And they are not only operating in India, but they are also operating in other parts of the country. You just see, sir, there is a guy who runs an NGO who claims that he gives assistance in difficult areas where floods are there, where war is there. But he only gets access to places where certain type of intelligence agencies are working. And that guy is a British citizen and he's working with Khalistani networks across the world. And he is backed by an intelligence agency of a particular country which is not pro-India, which is in fact enemy of India. So we have to see that okay, that
You can
yes,
name that
the
country
gentleman.
in our program.
Yeah, I'm talking about Pakistan and ISI. That guy gets the access to countries where ISI is active. He goes to Somalia. There is a zero population of Punjabis in Somalia, but he goes and does the charity work there. He goes and does charity work in very very complex countries. He comes to India. He does some bit of charity work here as well, but he's more into PR and those type of things. When we should be very very aware that why this guy is operating in this way. Why? Because see, the global Western democracies, they are very liberal. They see that oh, this guy is doing a charity work, and he comes from a ethnic minority. So they also extend awards and gives him the access to various power centers, and he in a way becomes part of their soft power. So there we also have to be cautious that okay, this guy is going there using the Khalistani network and doing a certain work to paint a different picture of the Khalistanis, no? That oh, these were very soft-hearted people who are being targeted. And then we also have to see that how they have captured through extortion as well as through funding, they have captured the Punjabi film and music industry. Right now, there was a concert, uh, a global concert where somebody raised an Indian flag, and the singer saw it. He was praising that girl's effort of raising tricolor, but suddenly he realized that, oh my God, I may offend my Khalistani sponsors. Then he said, no, 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 you should not spread negativity. How somebody who's raising tricolor to support an Indian singer can spread negativity? No. Yes, you are an Indian singer. You are holding Indian passport. We are praising you. How can that be a negativity? That was negativity because sponsors of his are Khalistanis. The entire Canadian market where singers go and do their programs and all that are being captured by these people. So we have to see that the soft power which we believe is ours is being used by these guys. They try and justify anti-India stances in India as well as outside India. Then they go and talk on different platforms and say that, okay, some bit of atrocity is happening. And there, if some gentleman like Amritpal comes up and talks about Sikh slavery and all that, that gets, there his voice gets amplified. Although he's lying in India, but this thing is amplified there. No? So we have to see that how liberalism and democracy of the Western world are not only used but misused and exploited by these elements. And for long we have kept quiet. For long we haven't spoken about it and calling them out. I'm glad that Colin Bloom has come up with this report, and we have been able to talk about how they have misused the platforms. I'm glad that you have done this debate and gave me an opportunity to talk about many of these things. Thank you, Vipin sir. Thank you, Samir. Thanks for this opportunity, sir. And if I have overstretched my brief, I am ready to apologize.
Not at all, not at all. I mean, this is a session where we need to share our knowledge. You have extensive knowledge of the subject, so you are one of the apt persons to talk on this subject. So that's precisely why you are here today to speak on it. In fact, a couple of observations on both, based on what both of you have spoken. First and foremost is that the Khalistani terrorists are weaponizing the democracies, the democratic values of the West in the form of representation in the legislature, influencing the legislators who are there in the legislature. They are actually weaponizing by capturing gurudwaras and making use of the money that is given for religious and charitable activities to the gurudwaras by the Sikh community. They are also weaponizing the entertainment industry, the Punjabi entertainment industry, by capturing programs and also funding these singers and these film stars and film production issues like that. So these are some of the three things that that I wanted to highlight. And also they're making or misusing or exploiting each and every available value, democratic value of the West to target India, target Indians, and to also play the second fiddle to the Pakistani agenda of breaking India. So that's the crux of your presentation. And I also liked one particular thing that Anilesh mentioned about in-depth study of the subject in a much more from in a Bharatiya civilizational ethos point of view. I like that. I think we'll try and do that in Law and Society Alliance as part of our research work that we do. So thank you for that suggestion, Anilesh. And with that, let us get into the question answer session. I already see a couple of questions that have been posted in the Q&A box. If there are any questions, please do write it down, because I won't be able to call people to ask the question. I'll read out the question, mention the name of the speaker, and write down your questions. But as the host of the day, I take the freedom of asking the first couple of questions. Samir, let me come to you first. You talked about your personal experience of how these Khalistani elements tried to suppress the voice of people who don't subscribe to their worldview. In fact, let me understand the Sikh community is also very politically powerful in Canada. They also have a lot of representatives who are in the government, who are in the parliament, who are ministers in the government, who have a powerful say in Canadian politics today. So there are a lot of Sikh community influenced constituencies also in Canada that I understand. So what is the reaction of the current government or the entire political class to the kind of extremist ideas that are being spread and the kind of violence that they inflict on innocent people who don't subscribe to the views of the Khalistani elements? What is the reaction, or how do they respond to these issues? And what is the impact of these activities of the Khalistani element on the polity of Canada? These are my two questions for you.
Honestly, I'm very happy that you raised this question, because this question, it is very important. Same what I've mentioned in this 159 pages report by Mr. Colin Bloom, I think that is portraying the same picture what is happening in Canada as well, because we have so many Sikh or Hindu politicians, those who are holding a very big portfolios in legislature or even in our House of Commons, that's our parliament, but whenever somebody try to raise the voice in or against them or in favor of India, they try to suppress. One of the examples which I can give you, our former Premier of British Columbia, that the Premier is, the position is as similar to the Chief Minister of any of the state of India. So former Premier of British Columbia, Ujjal Dosanjh, he has been, allegedly attacked by these pro-Khalistani groups, and he has been beaten very brutally a few years back. Not just only him, there was a journalist, Tara Singh here, who spoke against these elements, and he has been shot down. He's been allegedly killed by these group. And his son was a former MLA from our province. So you can see the gravity when somebody try to oppose them, or somebody try to question their start questioning their authority. They become so aggressive, so violent, and the laws over here are very lenient in a way, and they know the way how they're gonna go out from the hands of the rule of the law. So I think yes, most of the community members, they are, and majority of the community members, I should say, they are not supporting their ideology, but they are not openly opposing as well, because they are feeling, they feel, they have that feel of that these groups, they're going to harass them, they're going to come to their workplaces, they're going to target their economical condition, or their financial conditions, their families, and they are going to threaten them. So these are the things, that terror which they are creating amongst the pro Indian mindset people. I think that's why nobody is openly speaking out.
I understand that. In fact, there is a very good example of this from UK. In fact, House of the Lords member, Lord Rami Ranger. In fact, he has been sued. This is actually a warfare by the law, using the law. It's called as lawfare. Colloquially it's called as lawfare. Lawfare is waging a warfare using the laws of the land. So they have filed, the Khalistani, particularly Gurpatwant Singh Panun, who is the Six for Justice leader. He has filed a defamation case against him. In fact, defamation cases in UK are much stricter. It's very difficult to, the proof of innocence falls on the defendant, the person who's defending himself from the defamation in UK. So that's very difficult.
But Mr. Babinda, see, there's a strange thing. Mr. Ujjal Dosanjh, He's a Sikh. He belongs to the Sikh religion. Tara Singh here, he belongs to the Sikh religion. There are so many people, those who belong to the Sikh religion, and they are opposing their ideology, and they have been, attacked, or they've been hurled, or harassed by these goons.
Exactly. In fact, Lord Rami Ranger is a Indian origin. He's a Punjabi basically. He's from Punjab. He's a member of the House of Lords in UK. Yet these guys, when he expressed something against the Khalistani extremist ideology, he was sued by the banded outfit Sikh for Justice's leader in UK, and they filed a defamation case, which is very difficult, law as far as UK is concerned. In India, the proof of defamation lies with the person who's filing the petition, whereas in UK, the defendant has to prove that he did not defame. That's the kind of challenge that, in fact, I was very surprised when I learned about this particular case. Against Lord Rami Ranger, very reputed Punjabi, he does a lot of charitable work, and he is one of the greatest representative of the Sikh community in UK. So that was a little surprising. Actually, I just want to mention to both you and Anilesh. Anilesh probably knows it. I have a very strong Punjabi connection. Huh? my wife is a Punjaban, for all the audience to know. So I have a very strong connect to Punjab, and I very sincerely and feel for this particular issue, and for the state, and for the Sikh community, because I have a close relation to it. My truly better half is actually from Punjab. So that's just a tidbit.
So what do you mean by truly?
She's truly better than me. That's my point.
Oh, I thought you have falsely some other better halves.
No. So that's the for a lighter movement here. So okay, let me just go to Anilesh and ask a question. You mentioned about this criminal connect with this Khalistani elements. How entrenched are the criminal elements in this movement at this point in time? How much of control, or how much of funding, how much of political clout among the Khalistani elements do these criminal elements have? And
Sir,
what is the impact?
If you see this guy, Paramjit Singh Panjwar, who was heading the Khalistan Commando Force, he's gunned down today, apparently in Lahore's Jawtown.
Correct.
It's a very posh area where he was living. See, there is no free lunches in this world. Okay. ISI had given him a house in one of the best areas in Lahore. Okay. So why was he given? Because he was helping ISI to create a drug network. Okay. Then there is another guy called Lakhbir Singh Rode. He is nephew of Jarnail Singh Bhindranwale. He is living in Lahore. His son is living in Toronto. Okay. Then there is a guy called Paramjit Singh Pamma. He is part of Babbar network, Babbar Khalsa International Network, and KCF network is a mixed blend of it. So where is he? He is in London. And what all criminal cases are they facing? Drug trafficking, then running gangs, arranging guns and ammunition from the terror network of this world, Lashkar-e-Taiba and Jaish-e-Mohammed. Then there is a guy called Rinda, who apparently was killed or not killed. We are yet not aware of this. Intelligence agencies say that he was killed. There are some reports that he was not killed. Rinda has deep networks with Jaish-e-Mohammed. We have seen Paramjit Singh Panjwar and others sitting with Hafiz Saeed. They all have deep network into drug as well as Islamic terror, as well as the Khalistani network, not only in India, but also in the Western economies. Lakhbir Singh Rode's son, Bhagat Barad, he runs a network in Toronto. Intelligence agencies in India suspect that he is one of the kingpins who does many of the music shows and other type of activities. His pictures are there with several of the Indian stars, Indian Punjabi stars. It's all there, and people in Toronto know what sort of things he does. So then, this is the superficial or things which we know of established Khalistan. Then we see how they use the network. See, right now, there is no motivation for Khalistan in Punjab. Absolutely zero. So if you have to do isolated killings, you require gangsters. And then, these players like Goldie Berard, Lawrence Bishnoi, and all those criminals, Jaggu Bhagwanpuri and all that, that comes into play. These guys are basically the executors. And they use the Western democracies and their laws of political asylum and others liberal views to get settled in those countries, do criminal activities in India, and stay away from the the Canadian laws. And they are using it, and Indian establishment is giving details to the Canadian counterparts, and it is not on their priority to take action against these guys because under the Canadian law, they are not committing any crimes. So, they also need to wake up. And for last 6 years, Indian establishment is pushing Canadian establishment, UK establishments that, you take, these people head on. But as I told you earlier, Paramjit Pamma's best of the friends or closest aides are parliamentarians. So whenever he organizes protests, his people not only land up at Indian high commissions, but they also work as political aides of those parliamentarians also. No? So that is their day jobs. So they work for him, they mobilize stuff, and then there are people whom I was talking about, those NGO people who run NGOs. They also work for those parliamentarians. So there is a unholy nexus of criminals, erstwhile Khalistanis, because I'm deliberately using the erstwhile Khalistani because in 80s they might be, emotional outburst because, Golden Temple was attacked. And we have seen for right purpose or wrong purpose, we can debate about it. But, it was an outrageous act of getting into a religious place with, boots on. And the bullets were shot at Akal Takht. It is an outrageous incident. And there was an emotional outburst. Okay, yes. But now, in passing times, India also came to terms with it. People have thrown out that political party which had done that sin. Now, a political party which was anti, that political party is in power. They are trying to give a healing touch. As Punjabi myself, I feel a lot more part of the Indian system as anybody else. Indian Sikhs have become, one of them has become Prime Minister of India, one of them has become, even army chiefs, Air Force chiefs, naval chiefs. Sikhs are member parliament from constituencies where zero population of Sikh is there. There is a gentleman called S.S. Ahluwalia. He is member parliament from Durgapur, where zero Sikhs are living. He himself is not from Durgapur. People elected him irrespective of his religion, right? Because, there is acceptability. Similarly, Menaka Gandhi, she is a practicing Sikh. She is a member parliament from Sultanpur, where very negligible Sikh population is there. So Navneet Rana, she is an independent member parliament from somewhere in Maharashtra. So these people are part of the Indian Sikh stories, and I'm sure these stories are reaching to people all across the world. That India is now more convergent for Sikhs, and this is a natural home for Sikhs. Guru Gobind Singh Ji was born in Patna, not in some place which they want to claim as Khalistan. No? He was he attained martyrdom, or he in Punjabi we say that Jyoti Jo Samare, he got into the bigger light at Nandir Sahib, which is again not part of the so-called Khalistani geography which they want to propagate. Similarly, most of the udasis which Guru Nanak Dev had done is all across this subcontinent, no? So now people are, coming to terms with it, especially uh, in uh, in most part of the world. But there are deliberate people who have their own vested interest, political as well as business interest, to keep this bogey alive. Right? For example, this guy Gurpatwant Pannu, he runs a racket of political asylums, and for him to keep this bogey alive is essential and core for his business, because he wants to sell it to the Western democracies that, oh, Punjabis are feeling atrocities, and there are political cases because they are from that ethnic minority. So that's why they need to get political asylum. So that he requires. So that's why he instigates many of these things, and that bogey needs to be called out. And Western democracies need to understand this, that this guy is using or misusing their leniency or their liberalism for his own cause, and he's selling hatred. So there are many such people who, because of their drug business or because of their gang business, criminal business or such businesses, he wants to, they all wants to keep this bogey alive. And Colin Bloom has done really good work to start this discussion in UK, and I'm sure there are many like-minded people who would like to take many of these conversations forward.
Absolutely, absolutely. Thank you, Nilesh. That's a very extensive reply. I really appreciate your in-depth knowledge on the subject. Thanks so much. There are four more questions that we have. But before I go to the questions, one is asked by Rajiv, others by Colonel Jaban Singh, and one by Jagmeet Bawa. So I'll just come to each of them one by one. But before that, there is a participant named Aparna. I think it's Aparna Malviya. She says that British are the ones who sort of created this separate identity among the Sikhs back during the colonial era, whereas the earlier times this differentiation wasn't there. That's her opinion. She is also mentioning that she doesn't have much expectation from the Western states, she's also upset that the Indian state has been treating Khalistanis with terrorists with soft hands, uh, basically soft glove approach. So she also says that she has experienced this Khalistani extremism while she was in California and the US between 2018 and 2020. She also feels that our embassies and consulates have been knowingly soft towards them. These are our opinions, but it's important that we bring in the participants' views into the conversation. That's why I just mentioned it. Let's go to the questions one by one. I'll go as per the order of the questions that have been asked. So first one is from Jagmeet Bawa. He says not only the Western democracies, the Khalistani terrorists are also using the Indian democracy. These elements were there during the Shine Bagh demonstration, farmer protest, and all that also. How do you deal with these kind of misuse of democracy? Is there any solution to it? So that is this question. If Samir and Anilesh, both of you can handle it in very short answer, if you both of you can take it on. Samir, you go first.
I think it's really very valid question by Jagmeet Bawa. Yes, even if we look at the situation of Punjab, the Amritpal Singh episode, the government gave a very light hand to all that activity which we have done over there, and under the umbrella of democracy, they are trying to misuse the freedom which has been given under our constitution. I think yes, the government over there in India, or if it is a state subject, the different state government, they should take a very strong stand, and they should expose the the conspiracies behind all these activities.
Anilesh, you want to go next?
Sir, the problem with us is that I'll talk from the Indian perspective. The problem on our side is that there are very less institutions which call them out. There has to be more think tanks which needs to speak out, call out many of their ploys, and expose them. Right now, if I look at specifically about the Khalistanis and juxtapose it to the Islamic extremism, our collective understanding of Islamic terrorism and as well as Islamic heterogeneity is much less, you know. Similarly, about Khalistanis, it is even, less. How many people who deal with the security understanding understand the caste and class as well as the deep understanding that how Khalistani narratives are differently being used politically as well as economically. Very few people understand that, and that is the reason why that an element like Amritpal propped up, and they absolutely were clueless how to deal with him because he was talking about the Western principle of liberalism. That Khalid, look, there is a Supreme Court judgment that you are free to call or free to talk about and propagate about Khalistan. How is this acceptable to us? But nobody has challenged it. That no, this is not acceptable. It is a seditious law because this Khalistani concept as a principle is used to suppress the 99% of the population of Punjab. So this ploy is used to suppress and oppress Punjabis. So that should not be, used to propagate. So since this judgment was there, so Punjab police was not able to take action against Amritpal because he was peacefully talking and propagating an anti-India strategies and anti-India ploys. So these things need to be called out, strategically called out, institutionally called out, and we also need to come out clean and transparent about some issues in the past. We have to accept that Operation Blue Star was not done in a very clean way. It was a bad operation. We have to accept it and then come up with people who have done atrocities. The best way is as many of Sikh scholars have also mentioned, that come up with a RNC type of a commission, Truth and Reconciliation Commission, where people can come and talk about it. You may or may not take action against many of them, but at least acknowledge that yes, some things happened in the past, and especially when Sikhism is an Indic philosophy and it is a very Indic belief. More accommodation should be done to to reduce this Khalistani or separatist, or some may say that extremist views. So more assimilation should happen. And see, as Aparna was also mentioning, that British did it, but we followed it, right? So they may have done it, but it's almost 75 years. We haven't, done anything to undo it. In fact, political masters in past, they have done worse than what Britishers have done. So we are facing consequences of that. So that has to be undone now.
Right.
So
Thanks,
sorry
Anilesh.
if I'm
Yeah, no, not an
digressed.
issue. No, not an issue at all. Samir, there is a question about, from Rajiv Ranjan, is one of our participants. He's asking that there are a lot of stories which actually debunk the Khalistani bogie that appear in Indian, and also there are a lot of programs that are done, television shows that are done in India on this, Khalistani bogie. Do these, even these articles and do these programs reach the diaspora in Canada and other nations, democracies around the world, and is there a way to take them forward to those people? So that's one of the questions that's come. Can you just briefly handle that so that we can go to the last two questions?
Thank you so much, Rajiv. I think, in Western countries or in European countries, that the Indians or Pakistanis or people, those who went there to, they are hardworking people. They don't have time to go for this kind of agendas or for any kind of agendas. We are here to, to live a peaceful life. There are certain challenges in India. That's why people came over here in the Western world and the foreign world. And I think the people over here, most of the people are very peaceful. They are not going for any agenda. They do love their countries, their back home, their motherlands, but they are not falling for these kind of, the pro-Khalistani or some other different narratives. But yes, I think the local diaspora should come forward, and there has to be open voice as well. I think the Western or the European governments, they should change their policies, because right now what they are reviewing, that it is a fight between the communities. They are not, because they haven't had any kind of experience in the past. So this is very new thing for them, and they are just reviewing it as an internal matter of a community. That's why it's not that at that point, right? So I think the foreign governments or the Canadian government or the British government, Australian government, and this is a very good step. I mean, because they went to the root cause, and the main point, the claim which Mr. Colin Bloom, he mentioned over here, is the government need to understand the faith, because if somebody is misusing the religious sentiment of someone and trying to use those sentiments to run their own agenda, that has to be exposed.
Yeah, that's right. So last two questions, we'll quickly go to it. I'll first ask Anilesh one question, and then Samir will complete the last question of the day. Anilesh, this question is to you from Colonel Jaiban Singh. He's asking the growing influence of India globally, will it help in containing this Khalistani challenge to our security and integrity globally? So that's the question that's for you. You're muted.
Sorry, Colonel Javans, thank you for asking me this question. See, sir, the thing is that the number of people will not make any difference, because in Canada, Indians technically have a lot of influence, and there was a time when half of the cabinet, almost was of Indians. Even at present, the defense minister and other key portfolios are with Indians. But that will not help unless until we increase power and institutions. I don't think so that number of people or number of people at key positions would be of any help. Even if we look around, especially in the 4 countries, Australia, England, then Canada, UK, Indians have not only control on the political narratives, but also on the economic side. If you see top 6 employment generators of Canada, 2 are Indians. Many of the American corporations, they are headed by Indians. Canadian, I told you. England, we all know that we have cultural as well as political as well as economic relations with the former colonial power. It doesn't help. More understanding of Indian ethos by or residents of those countries. And through institutional learning, then only we'll be able to sell our Indian nationalism and Indian interest to them. And that will only happen if we build up the narratives.
Thanks,
I
Anilesh.
want
Thanks
to
very much.
I want to add on something with this. Thank
Sure.
you for Colonel Saab's question. Jain Colonel Saab, I think it is not just only by the foreign politicians, because the politicians, as you mentioned, Anilesh, our Honorable Defence Minister Anita Anand, she's a proud Canadian. Yes, she's Indian origin. Same as with the other our member of parliaments or member of legislative assemblies. But I think the diplomatic relations by the Indian government, they should come in a different way, and they should come with different policies. I think that's what's gonna change the narrative overall. Otherwise, whatever is happening over here, our politicians in Canada or in UK or in Australia, their priority is going to be their country first, because we have different agendas over here. Our politicians, Canada is challenging itself with, Canada is facing so many challenges within itself. We are facing with the foreign interference. We have a Chinese alleged Chinese police stations operating in Canada. There's a report from our spy agency, CSIS, Canadian Security Intelligence Services, that our 2019-2021 elections has been impacted by the communist regime from Beijing, and there are reports that the Trudeau Foundation, they received $140,000 the donation from a Chinese businessman, those who try to influence the Canadian democracy. So Canadian politicians are already facing so many challenges within our own country. So I think they are going to focus with improving our economy, making sure that I think a few months back, our country, Canada, they came up with the Indo-Pacific strategy, and this is a very good strategy. I have gone through so many intellectuals about this. JNU professor, he was a visiting professor over here, Swaran Singh. I spoke to him on that, and in that particular Indo-Pacific strategy, that's Canada's Indo-Pacific strategy. They mentioned India as their critical partner and China as a disruptive country. So the diplomatic ties, that kind of relation, the people-to-people relation, I think that's what's going to change these kind of narratives. But if we are going to expect only from the Canadian politicians or Indian origin Canadian politicians or Indian origin UK politicians, I think their priorities are going to be focused towards the residents or the citizens of their own country first.
Samir, thank you so much. On your own, you actually answered the last question that I was supposed to ask you, also from Colonel Jayban Singh. So he was also actually talking about whether these kind of initiatives, the Bloom Review type of initiatives, or Terry Milowski kind of reports, or Aparna Pandey kind of reports, will have any impact, which are all done in foreign shores outside India. Will it have any impact on India itself or something like that? So you answered them perfectly, not by design. It came out automatically, naturally.
Even Bipinderji, the Colin Bloom's report, as we already discussed, it's focused on the British values, and
Correct.
he is going to focus on the British values. Why he going to go for the Indian values?
Exactly.
Right. And even though, if you look at his report, I'm going to rest my speech with this. It says that this is going to make a better understanding of, it is going to be a good review as a better understanding of fate that's going to help the British government, to tackle the systemic issues of extremism, and there are certain other issues which are being faced by the Britishers right now.
Yeah.
So definitely, I think these yes, the issues have been orchestrated by our own community members, or you know, some foreign powers, some foreign actors. But yes,
Yeah.
I think with this kind of review or with this kind of these kind of reports, I think the government is going to get so much help.
Right. Thank you, Samir. Samir, I don't know if Anilesh told you, I'm an expert on Chinese influence operation subject. Maybe we can discuss it in your program one of those days.
Definitely, definitely.
I'm looking
Have your number.
forward to that. Yeah, I'm looking forward to that. In fact, I will complete or end the day's show with one comment from Aparna Malviya. She says that there is a requirement for a in-depth study on the Khalistan terrorism subject from the Indian point of view. I agree with Aparna totally, and I know that she's a researcher. I will take her help to do this research on the subject. Thank you so much, Aparna.
Find sponsor, I'll also help.
Yeah, sure. Thank you so much. So I want to thank all the participants who are here today. We had a good, knowledgeable lot of participants actually. They're all, you know, some sort of a researcher or a military officer or a diplomat or something of that sort. So some very important people attended today's event. So I thank each of them. We also have a professor from a central university in Himachal today. We have Law and Society Alliance's K. Vijay Parsadi is an executive committee member who's also listening to us. Subhash Sharma from Punjab, he's another Dr. Subhash Sharma, he's also here. Venkat Ji, another executive member of Law and Society.
This is different, Subhash. He's a professor here in Delhi.
Okay, you must have shared the contact. So he's also here. So thank you, Dr. Subhash Sharma, Professor Subhash Sharma, for joining. I thank all of you for being here, and I especially thank Samir, who joined us very early in the morning from Canada. It must be around 8:30 now there.
I cannot, I'm sorry, I cannot hear anything. I think there is some issue with my phone right now. But
Right, okay.
thank you so very much, all of you, for spending your time and inviting me, especially Mr. Birinder and Anilesh. Anilesh is always helpful. You know, whenever I call him, he always come to my shows. I'm sorry if I jump in between. I'm extremely sorry for that. But I think it is time. My son, you saw my son, right? He's my puppy.
Yeah,
he's calling me that it is his time that I have to take him for a walk.
You are a pet parent. I can see that. So very nice. In fact, I'm a great.
Thank you so much once again.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you very much. Thank you, Anilesh. Thank you very much for
Thank you, sir. Thank you. Thanks for arranging.
With this, I end the program. Thank you so much.
Thank you, sir.